In this video, we're diving into a key topic for Paraguay residents, the difference between Paraguay legal residency and Paraguay tax residency, and why understanding both is crucial for expats, retirees, digital nomads, and entrepreneurs eyeing this South American gem. Whether you're already a Paraguayan resident or you're thinking about getting residency in Paraguay, this video is going to help sort of demystify things because Paraguay's low-cost lifestyle, welcoming vibe, and territorial tax system have made it super popular and made it a standout for those seeking a new base with financial freedom. So in this video, we're going to explore the practicalities of legal versus tax residency in Paraguay, helping you decide which path fits your goals. And long story short, if you don't want to watch a 10-minute video, if you are an American, you probably don't need tax residency in Paraguay because you pay taxes on your worldwide income, though it could have a small benefit, less so than for non-Americans. If you're Canadian, if you're European, Australian, South African, any non-American watching this is going to really benefit from tax residency in Paraguay. So if you're American, legal residency is probably all you need. If you're a non-American, you probably want legal and tax residency in Paraguay. So let's get into the video in more detail. Legal residency allows you to live, work, and access services in Paraguay, typically with a cédula, which is the national ID card. The process is straightforward, requires a passport, apostilled birth certificate, clean criminal record, and with that, you can get legal residency in Paraguay. And then once you're a legal resident, you can get the cédula, which is what really unlocks the ability to get banking and a driver's license, etc. in Paraguay. A Paraguayan address via a lease or property ownership is essential as well. Temporary residency lasting 1 to 2 years is renewable and leads to permanent residency. Temporary residency lasts for 2 years and then will renew to permanent residency. Permanent residency basically offers the same access to local services. You're going to be able to access the public healthcare system, driver's license and bank accounts, as we talked about, the right to legally reside in Paraguay. But from a tax residency perspective, being a permanent resident is going to look better than being a temporary resident. And as a PR, that's going to put you on the path to citizenship. You need 3 years of permanent residency to work towards citizenship. A lot of people don't realize this, but the 2 years on temporary residency don't count towards citizenship. I mean, they count in the sense that you're working towards PR, but the clock for citizenship is all about obtaining 3 years of permanent residency. The cédula, again, simplifies banking and healthcare. You'll get a cédula shortly after becoming a resident, and then citizenship is kind of the level above. Citizenship grants a passport with Mercosur access, allowing residence or work in countries like Argentina or Brazil, really all of South America. And if you're unfamiliar with the Mercosur, we have another video on the channel explaining what the Mercosur is. If you're unfamiliar with the cédula, we have another video on this channel explaining what the Mercosur is. We also have another video on this channel explaining in super detail the difference between temporary and permanent residency. Again, this video is more about legal residency versus tax residency. Legal residency requires maintaining your ties to Paraguay with occasional visits. When you're on temp, you need to visit once every 365 days to keep your residency active. If you're on permanent, there's no exact number of days, but typically people recommend visiting once every 3 years to keep your permanent residency active. So that's legal residency, but what about tax residency? How do you keep your tax residency active? How do you get that? And we'll get into that in this video. It's important to remember that Paraguay has a territorial tax system that only taxes income earned within its borders at a flat 10%, while foreign income faces 0% local tax. So if you have pensions from abroad, If you have an online business, if you have investments abroad, that is not taxed in Paraguay. Tax residency typically requires spending 4 months a year in Paraguay or showing significant ties to Paraguay, like a business, a Paraguayan address, and other substantial ties. By the letter of the law, you should be doing 4 months a year in Paraguay to be a tax residency, but in reality, it can be easier than that because I know a lot of people don't want to do 4 months a year in Paraguay. Paraguay is pretty unique in that sense, where the cedula is going to help facilitate your tax residency. Once you have the cedula, you can get a RUC, an RUC, which is the Registro Único del Contribuyente. We have another video on this channel about the RUC. And you're going to get that from the SET, the SET, to formalize your tax status. Now, once you have a RUC, you need to start filing monthly tax returns in Paraguay. And don't worry, you can just be filing zeros every single month, 000, but you got to make sure that you file. Otherwise, there are penalties for not filing. Paraguay's absence from the OECD's CRS ensures financial privacy, though future inclusion in the CRS is possible. And again, if you don't know what the CRS is, we have another video on our channel about that. So a lot of people say that once you have the RUC and start doing your monthly filings, that basically makes you a tax resident in Paraguay. And then you can supplement that with physical presence in Paraguay or other ties to Paraguay, like a business, property, etc. And by the way, MyLatinLife, we can help you obtain the RUC in Paraguay. We can help you file your monthly tax returns in Paraguay. We can help you get a solid physical address in Paraguay, a residential address, so that you can get, utility bills in your name and so forth, the types of things to help you pass KYC for banking abroad. There's a link in the description to this video where you can book a call with us, become our client. We can answer all of your burning questions about Paraguay, legal and tax residency. And if you're not a resident yet, we can help you get residency. We have a visa service, a residency service, of course. Or if you're already a resident, maybe you're a legal resident but haven't quite become a tax resident yet, which is actually quite common, then we can help put the pieces in place to become a Paraguay tax resident. So let's compare legal and tax residency a little bit more. Legal residency focuses on maintaining the residency and maybe living in Paraguay, granting the right to stay in Paraguay, to work in Paraguay, to access local services with the cedula. It suits those seeking integration, people looking to stick around, and people who are potentially looking for citizenship with Mercosur benefits. Though now they're saying that to get citizenship, you should have a RUC, and they won't allow you to apply for citizenship without a RUC. That has changed over time, so you might want to check in with us if citizenship is something that you absolutely want to work towards. Tax residency emphasizes financial optimization, offering 0% tax on foreign income with a RUC and minimal local obligations. Legal residency is sort of a precursor that will enable tax residency, as the cedula doesn't get tax residency in and of itself, but you need the cedula in order to get the RUC. So it's kind of, if you're working towards tax residency, it's a multiple step process here, where first you get the residency, then you get the cedula, then you get the RUC. Then once you start filing tax returns with the RUC, that basically makes you a tax resident. And then from there, you can actually get something called a tax resident certificate. A certificado de residencia fiscal, something like that would be the name. And that's something that you can obtain as well. That would be sort of like an extra. It's not 100% necessary to get that certificate. And it's probably going to cost some money to work with the fixer to get that certificate as well. Because normally you need to spend more than 4 months a year in Paraguay in order to be able to get that certificate. But it might be possible as long as you have, it might be possible with less than 4 months if you have strong ties to Paraguay. Tax residency in Paraguay demands time or ties, which may not suit all nomads, but if you're the type of nomad that's making money online, it can be a good idea to start structuring your affairs in a way that you're spending time or developing ties to Paraguay, because, if you're coming from Canada or Europe and you're paying 40, 50% tax, and by spending time or developing ties to Paraguay, you can, get into a place where you're a tax resident of a territorial tax system and you could potentially pay zero tax on your worldwide income. That might be worth it, in exchange for developing ties to Paraguay. So who is this for? Legal residency, as I mentioned earlier, I think really suits Americans quite well. It could also suit retirees that are past their earning years, where tax residency fits nomads, investors seeking 0% tax on their global income, people who are still in their earned income years, or actually really anyone that might have capital gains tax, inheritance tax, etc. So if optimizing for taxes are important for you, obviously tax residency in Paraguay is going to have a lot of appeal. But if you're not really optimizing for tax residency because Americans, tax on worldwide income, and a lot of countries seem to be coming online with taxing you on your worldwide income, maybe legal residency is enough and you're kind of keeping it as a back pocket permanent residency, kind of an escape plan, a plan B for your family. Because, a lot of people, Canadians, Americans, etc., don't have settlement rights in other countries. A European can go live in any country in the European Union. They can go live in 27 plus countries. But an American really can't legally live anywhere else. I mean, maybe Guam, maybe Palau, maybe the US Virgin Islands, but Americans really get very little settlement rights around the world. But at least if you get Paraguay residency, then you're allowed to legally live in this country if, your situation changes, you're tired of the US, whatever it is. So legal residency and tax residency are both going to appeal to people. It's actually quite inexpensive to get residency in Paraguay. The threshold is very low. And so it kind of makes it a no-brainer to get legal residency, even if you don't want tax residency. Tax residency obviously is a more thoughtful thing that involves a couple extra steps and can benefit a lot of people. But legal residency can really benefit pretty much anyone that's all right with visiting Paraguay once every 3 years to keep it active. And even then, I don't think you really need to visit once every 3 years. The Cedula card is valid, I believe, for 10 years. So as long as you're renewing that Cedula card every 10 years, you should be fine. But of course, these things are subject to change. So now let's move on to some steps to achieve residency and 0% tax. So step one is pursue temporary legal residency, also known as TR or temporary residency. So we can help you get temporary residency. All you need is an apostilled birth certificate and an apostilled police check. You need a clean criminal record. If you have small issues on your record like a DUI or anything less than a felony, we can often get that pushed through, but check with us first and we can confirm if we can take on your case. But in any case, you start with legal residency, you start with temporary residency usually. There is the opportunity to go directly to permanent residency and skip temporary residency, but that's via the investor visa called the SUACE, where you need to invest $70,000 in Paraguay. And we have other dedicated videos on the channel about the SUACE program. If you couldn't be bothered to start on temp and you'd rather just start on permanent, a lot of our higher net worth clients do that because they just don't want to have to go to Paraguay 3-4 times. They'd rather just go once and get PR and get it out of the way. And then if you're starting on temp, as I mentioned, to get to PR, you need to do 2 years on temp, and you need to visit once every 365 days. So you're looking at probably 2 to 3 visits to Paraguay during the 2 years in order to renew to permanent residency. Now, you can get the RUC and the tax ID in Paraguay before PR. So you can get it on TR, no problem. So if you're working towards tax residency, just get temp legal residency first, get the cedula, then we can get the RUC, and then you can become a tax resident in Paraguay. You don't have to wait for PR to become a tax resident in Paraguay. Now, if you're looking to work towards citizenship, that is going to probably require more physical presence. The Supreme Court of Paraguay has put out guidelines in terms of what they want to see in terms of physical presence in Paraguay during those 3 years of permanent residency. And it is pretty stringent. You're looking at, I think it's like 270 days a year. I'm just, speaking off the top of my head, I'd have to double check, but I think you are looking at about 8-9 months a year for the 3 years in Paraguay. Not continuous, but, cumulatively 8-9 months a year in Paraguay per year to improve your chances to get Paraguayan citizenship. So it all depends on your goals. Do you want legal residency? Do you want tax residency? Do you want to work towards citizenship? These things are all important. And if you want to work towards citizenship, you're going to want to learn Spanish as well, because you're going to have to do an exam in Spanish, and you're not going to pass the exam unless you have at least half decent Spanish, because you have to memorize the Paraguayan national anthem and you have to answer questions in Spanish about Paraguayan history. In conclusion, Paraguay's legal and tax residency options in 2025 offer affordability and opportunity for big savings. Legal residency with the cedula enables living, working, and integration with access to the Mercosur and life in South America. Tax residency with the RUC provides 0% tax on foreign income for those with global earnings. Both leverage Paraguay's territorial tax system, allowing you to be left alone, free from the bureaucracy of angry high-tax countries. Paraguay is a bastion of freedom. It's a breath of fresh air, and you'll find that a lot of people that come to Paraguay thinking they just want to get the tax residency and get out of there, they end up staying because they like it so much. So think about, what are your goals? Is it local living or global savings? Whatever you want, Paraguay is for you. And if you would like to get Paraguay legal or tax residency, again, there's a link in the description to book a call with us. MyLatinLife is a full-scale immigration consultant. Me, myself, I've been a Paraguay permanent resident for like 6-7 years now. We've helped 100 plus people get residency in Paraguay, and we can help you as well. So link in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, bell, all that good stuff. Leave a comment, and we'll see you in the next video.